Listen here, Jack. Got leggy hairs. Gonna be doing a stream here. Alright. Pull this thing up on my phone. It's working. Alright. Heck yeah. Alright, so this is how I'm gonna read the chat, if there is a chat. It's not like I have a huge audience. I am going to tweet about this real quick, so hold on tight. The nobody that's watching, hold on tight. Alright. I'll like my own stream. Alright, let's do it. Where's the chat? It went away. Live chat. There we go. Okay, talking a lot. I got leggy hairs. Gonna be doing election predictions, Jack. Point number one is point number one, and then point number two is the important part. Point number two. Alright, I'm gonna do a tweet. Follow me on Twitter, links in the description, along with my Patreon if you want to support me. This is a shoddy setup. You see how I don't have a headphone on and I'm using my laptop mic and camera? Yeah. This is also a laptop that's like 6 years old. And I have one mouse that I share with my partner, who's a graphic designer. We go back and forth. We can only work one person at a time. Yeah, so support me on Patreon because I'm poor. Let's see. Tweet. Live 2022 elections. Election predictions. What emoji should I use? Emoji. Sad light. Boom. Alright, Jack. We're going to be doing election predictions today because it's roughly 4 months out from the midterm elections. It's what I do for a living, basically. I work on campaigns. I'm also a data nerd. And so, like, this is sort of what I do. Why is this what's on screen? Oh, I didn't even realize this is what the freaking stream looks like. Whoops, okay. So the resource, I'm going to be using 538. Not to fill in, like, I'm going to be making my own predictions. But I'm using 538 so that I get people's names right. And also, it's a good reference if you're getting into, like, data and stuff. I mean, they have different models and stuff. It's very nice and in-depth. I'm going to start with governors. Then we're going to go to the Senate, and then we're going to go to the House, because the House obviously is going to be the most in-depth. It's 435 seats. Right off the bat, let's see. I'm just going to start in a random order. Basically, let's get this started. Wes Moore, I believe it is, in Maryland. Yeah, Wes Moore is going to win. And I'm pretty sure by a large margin. Here's why. Because even though Maryland has a Republican governor currently, Larry Hogan's one of the most approved of governors in the country. He's not running again. Dan Cox, the guy who won the Republican primary, is like a MAGA person, and Maryland is a deep blue state. I don't think Wes Moore is going to have any problem winning there. Straight up. Alright, Pennsylvania. Going to be very close. Let me explain the margins if you don't know. So I'm going to use Wyoming as an example. Regular is safe. That means that the person is probably going to win by more than 15 points. Likely is 15 points or less, down to 5%, which is lean, which is 5% or less, and then less than 1% is tilt. And that's how I do it. Obviously each model is different. And what I mean by percent, I mean percentage of vote that the candidate that wins by. So in Pennsylvania, I think it'll be a very close race, but I'm very confident Josh Shapiro is going to win. Because of how awful Doug Mastriano is, and because of how good John Fetterman is. John Fetterman running for Senate is going to carry a lot of Democrats over the edge. And we'll talk about that more when we get to the House races as well. But I think Josh Shapiro's got this. New York, I don't even know who's running, because Kathy Hochul's easily going to win. It's New York. No question about that. Now, Vermont and New Hampshire, I'm fairly certain their incumbents are going to win again. Chris Sununu is running again. Phil Scott's running again. They're both going to win easily. But in Massachusetts, similar situation to Maryland, I'm pretty sure, where the Republican incumbent is not running again. And so Massachusetts will easily go to Maura Healey and turn blue again. Very good. Very good, very easy. Connecticut and Rhode Island, I also think two states that are going to be blue. And I've seen a lot of predictions that say that Connecticut's going to narrow down. I don't know if that's super true, and I don't super care because I don't think it's going to matter, but I will characterize it as likely because, Republicans in New England can do well if they're a moderate. And I don't know why that is, but it is what it is. I do have bias. You can tell. I will say, did I even get my shirt in the shot? I don't even know. I'm wearing a Warnock shirt. I'm someone who lives in Georgia and works for Georgia Democratic campaigns. So I am biased. I have to put that out there. I would not trust a Republican, but for some reason people in New England do if they present themselves as a moderate. So, Maine, Janet Mills, pretty sure is going to win. Let's see, New Jersey already has a Democrat. Virginia, unfortunately, has a Republican. And we have some other states. Kentucky's interesting. They have a Democrat. Louisiana has a Democratic governor. But they're not up for re-election yet. Very interesting stuff. Kansas has a Democratic governor who is running for re-election. And a lot of predictions say that Laura Kelly, the Democrat incumbent, is going to lose. And I agree with that, but I think it will be a close race. And I haven't seen the results, if they've even come out yet, of the ballot measure to remove protections for abortion rights in Kansas. If that gets removed, I think it's very likely that Laura Kelly might win. Laura Kelly, is that her name? Yeah, Laura Kelly might win because people want to protect abortion rights in Kansas. But otherwise, I think they'll vote for a Republican because it is a very white, rural state. Unfortunately, white people statistically vote for the Republican Party because of race relations. And they may not personally think that's what it is, but a lot of times that's what it is. If you're talking about economic reasons, a lot of times you're talking about racial reasons, okay? If you're talking about crime reasons, a lot of times you're talking about racial reasons. You may not think that because you don't know why the politicians and the pundits and the people on the news are telling you these things, but in truth, they're dog whistles. And so I think Kansas will go red, but barely, because they do care about things like the child tax credit, abortion rights, infrastructure. Because the thing is, I'm just going to do a little tangent here. Let me get a drink of water. I did not really plan this stream out. I'm also probably going to start... before I continue with this map, I'm just going to lay some stuff out. Because I jumped into this too hot, too quick. Alright, let me slow my roll. I want to start streaming. I used to make videos all the time, and I would like an outlet. I'm doing an election prediction to start, because it's easy. I will probably be playing video games in the future. I will probably start streaming regularly. I've recently quit 2 of my jobs. I was working 3 jobs. One of them was for William Harris's campaign for State House District 74 in Georgia. I'm still working for that job. It doesn't pay very much, though. It is a campaign job. I am the highest paid staff member, but still not very much. I was bar backing and doing DJing at a local bar. Well, I'll be more clear, actually. I don't care. I'll be clear. I was working at a moose lodge in the city I live in. I don't like private clubs like that because they're typically full of bigots. And that's what happened. since they're a private club, they have a internal political structure that runs the rules of the lodge. My dad's uncle is the president of the lodge. He does not like my dad because my dad is a homosexual man and his uncle is a bigot. A lot of people at that lodge are bigots. My dad got elected through the general membership election because he ran for the administrator position. He got elected. But 6 months in, there has to be a board vote to keep him. And based on his performance, they fired him. I asked almost every single member of that board why it happened. They couldn't give me a single reason. And I specifically asked a couple of them that I was friends with, was it because he's gay? And they would not give me a clear answer. Fairly certain my dad got fired because he is gay. I'm not going to stand for that. As a queer person myself, and even if I wasn't, still I would be an ally because I'm a good person. Stop giving them my money, stop giving them my labor. I was being underpaid anyways. So, yeah. So if you'd like to help me out, please go to my Patreon, give any amount. You can get on my Discord server, so when I am playing video games in the future, we could play together, whatever. We can share memes, I had a $10 tier, because that's $5. I had a $10 tier where you get a shout out. I guess I could still do that. That was when I was doing my podcast. I don't know if I'll bring that back. It's a little bit complicated. Because I don't have an editor or a team, and then I started working my other jobs, and we'll see where this goes. That's why I'm doing this. I want to. And the setup is shoddy. Every amount of money that I receive from Patreon, if I receive any, will be used to make this setup better. I've got my laptop on a metal TV dinner table in my room. Like I said, I have one mouse that I share with my partner, who's a graphic designer. The laptop I use is over 6 years old. It's the same laptop I used to edit all my videos on. It was top of the line back then, and it still works really well now. It's just it is starting to slow down and it is starting to have problems. The laptop that my partner uses to work is older and in worse condition. So any amount of money I get, I'll use on getting a new laptop, potentially getting headphones with a mic, maybe a better camera, whatever. Enough of that. Because I just had to get that off my chest, since I jumped so blindly into this stream. And that's usually how this will go. Very blind, very casual, I suppose. So yeah, Kansas I think will go red unless there's some big upset, because abortion access is legal in Kansas right now, but there is a ballot measure to make it illegal. If it becomes illegal, I think it's going to be more likely to re-elect their Democratic governor. And they elected the Democratic governor because of a backlash against Trump. I do believe it was in 2019. Oh, it doesn't say. Oh, I thought it did. Oh well, okay. The other ones. These two easily read. Let's see. Iowa, pretty sure will be easily read. Ohio, easily read. Easily read, red. Ron DeSantis will do really good. Obviously, Florida's a swing state, but he's going to do really good for a swing state. I'll say that. Greg Abbott's going to do good in Texas. Not because people like him. A lot of people don't like him. But I have family in Texas, and I watch polls and listen to interviews all the time as well. There's a lot of apathy in Texas. A lot of people don't like the Republican Party in Texas, but they also don't vote, and so it doesn't matter. They're going to win because the people who do like them do vote. So here's my message to all of you, no matter where you live in the country, no matter what your political beliefs are, go vote. It's easy. It's honestly really easy. And you have your voice heard. Otherwise, what does it matter? I believe Stitt is going to win in Oklahoma. Kevin Stitt's very unliked in Oklahoma too, but it's even a worse environment in Oklahoma. Oklahoma's wild. I mean, Texas is wild too. Texas is wild with the laws on the books. Oklahoma is wild with the lawlessness of the state. The police and governments exploit certain laws, especially tribal laws in Oklahoma, to undermine people's sovereignty. There's a lot of minorities, especially the black minority population in Oklahoma, gets beaten a lot, like genuinely. It's rough. Voting access is denied to a lot of people. There's huge class divides. I mean, there's huge class divides across the country, but Oklahoma's rough, man. It's rough. So, yeah, I think Stitt's going to win, unfortunately, mostly due to lack of voting access to minorities and poor people as well. Michelle Grisham, I can't speak. She's gonna win, but it might narrow down a little bit. Hawaii, easy. I actually think Alaska might be pretty close, and here's the reason. Not that close. I think Alaska might come down to below a 5% margin. Now, Alaska has ranked choice voting, which is really good and helps the people actually get who they want in office. But one, the Democrat running, who is Les Gara, is going to get the Democratic vote, and then Bill Walker is running as an independent, or maybe as a libertarian. I think he's running as an independent. He's going to get a decent amount of vote, So while 538 says that Mike Dunleavy's going to win by a decent amount, and I do believe he's going to win, I think it will be pretty close because of Bill Walker. If Bill Walker wasn't such a good candidate in Alaska, I think it'd be a normal Democrats get a little bit of the vote and Republicans get most of it. But I think a lot of people are going to put Bill Walker as their second choice. They're going to put either the Democrat or the Republican as their first choice, and then their second choice is going to be Bill Walker, and that's going to suck a lot of the vote. Ranked choice voting is great. It's so much better than the way most states do it. And it's not, I'm not just saying it's great because it's whittling down the Republicans in this election. That's not why. It's because it actually represents what people want better. Because, let's say 2016 presidential election. If you wanted, what's his name? Gary Johnson. If you wanted Gary Johnson to win, but you knew he wasn't likely to win, you might vote for either Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton, even though you wanted Gary Johnson. Ranked choice voting, instead of having to pick, you can put Gary Johnson first, and then pick Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump for your second one. Say you wanted Hillary to win, but you didn't like Hillary. So you put Gary Johnson as 1, Hillary as 2. When Gary Johnson loses, so when they tally them up, and it's Hillary, Trump, Gary, Gary will be knocked out, and then your vote, instead of being thrown away like it normally would, your second choice would come into play and be added to the remaining total. So, like, a lot of people voted for Gary Johnson and Jill Stein or Harambe or somebody, and Donald Trump ended up winning. Ranked choice voting, Hillary Clinton probably would have won because she won the popular vote. So, Colorado, easy. Wyoming, Idaho, easy. Arizona, I think, will be an extremely close governor's race. But just like how I said John Fetterman's going to pull Josh Shapiro through, I believe Katie Hobbs, is that her name? Katie Hobbs is going to be pulled through because of how good of a candidate Mark Kelly is. Mark Kelly's not an amazing candidate, but he's doing a great job in Arizona. I'll say that. Like, I don't think Mark Kelly could be a national sort of figure, but he's doing really good in Arizona. Because this is a year that Arizona should go red, but it's probably not. So, Steve Sisolak, I also think it will be an extremely close race in Nevada. A little better for Steve Sisolak than Katie Hobbs, but I think he'll still win. California, easy. Ohio, Yeah, I mean, I agree with similar margin. Ohio might whittle down a little bit, but in the end, Democrats will win. Democrats will win Illinois. I do think Republicans will win Georgia, which sucks. I am voting for Stacey Abrams myself. I live in Georgia. Um, Unfortunately, I just don't think there'll be enough turnout. With with SB 202 suppressing the vote, with it being a midterm year, and with a lot of the politics angled around suburban issues, because that's what turned Georgia blue in 2020 was the suburban white women added on, and the turnout of black voters. Like, we would have never got there without the turnout of black voters, of course. But a lot of the focus that political elites are putting is on suburban white women. And I think that's a mistake, because they're going to vote anyways. You know, and obviously it's important to get them to vote for the Democratic Party if you want the Democrats to win, but what's really important in the state of Georgia is getting poor people to vote. Poor people of any race. You get poor people to vote, Democrats are going to win in Georgia. But I don't think the party establishment is going to put in the work to actually go and give poor people a reason to do that. I'm going to be doing that in the races that I'm working on, like in William Harris's race. I already know a couple of specifically trailer parks in the district that I personally plan on going and knocking on doors in. Because they deserve to have their voice heard, and unfortunately a lot of times they don't believe that their vote counts. Or they don't know how to vote. Because no one's ever taught them or talked to them or given them a light chance. Or they don't think politicians care about them, because a lot of politicians don't care about them. I can promise you William Harris does, but that's not the point. And I can promise you Stacey Abrams does. But unfortunately, at least looking at the polling right now and how I think the Democrats are going to fuck up, because the party establishment of Democrats sucks. Oh, here's what I wanted to say earlier. I just remembered about Democrats, Republicans. The Democratic platform is really good for accomplishing things. Getting things accomplished, whether that's infrastructure, healthcare, progress in general. The Democratic platform is really good, but the Democratic Party establishment doesn't do anything. They don't do anything. That's why I like progressives and I like practicalists, like people who are very practical, people who are very progressive, because they will get things done and they'll fight for people. Elite party Democrats don't do anything. That's the problem. Republicans, their platform is extremely harmful. It's literally a fascist platform. Will get people killed, has already gotten people killed. It's very discriminatory. It's awful. But the party establishment is really good at doing things. If they want to do something, they do it. Like this year. The Democrats control control two chambers of Congress, both chambers of Congress, and the presidency, and yet Republicans still got their way. When it comes to Roe, when it comes to shooting down bills, they still got their way. The Republican Party is really good at getting things done. It's just the things they want to get done are really bad. The Democratic Party wants to get good things done, but they're really bad at getting things done. That's why we need new candidates. Let's get rid of... And I've literally written an email to Joe Biden about this, and I've called my senators, John Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, and I said, we need to change the Democratic Party leadership. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, get them out. Dick Durbin, get him out. Let someone else be the position. Chuck Schumer, let someone like John Ossoff take that position. Dick Durbin, he's the party whip in the Senate. He's not doing a good job. He's doing a terrible job with scheduling, with whipping votes. Awful. Let someone else be the party whip. Maybe Cory Booker could be the party whip. Maybe... Let's see. Maybe Amy Klobuchar. I don't know, make someone who is actually going to light a fire under their ass to do something. And I don't super agree with Amy Klobuchar or Cory Booker's politics. I'm just saying, you have to play the game to win if you want to win. And Dick Durbin and Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi are not playing to win, they're playing for their pockets. That's it. And that's a problem. Okay. 3 more states. Rust Belt states. For the governorships. I basically agree with these predictions on 538, I think both Minnesota and Michigan will be pretty much a Democratic win straight out. There's a little bit of opposition there. And I think Tony Evers is going to barely win. And I think Tony Evers is going to barely win because of the abortion issue. And the whole fascism thing also contributes. Democrats in general are doing better than they normally would, not just because Roe was overturned. They were doing better than they should have before that happened. Even though Biden is super unapproved of as president, the party was still doing fairly well because the Republican Party is insane. And they're mask off because since Nixon, the Republican Party has been insane. And then in the 80s with Reagan and Gingrich, they went even more insane. But they were good at hiding it. Under Trump and all these new Republicans, they're not good at hiding it. And that's their problem. Because like how people say Ron DeSantis will easily win, but Trump will probably lose in 2024, they both believe the same things. It's just Ron DeSantis is a trickster, whereas Donald Trump puts it all the cards on the table. He says, I'm going to be a fascist dictator. Whereas Ron DeSantis is like, no, I'm actually going to be pretty good. He's tricking you. And the Republicans are just not as good at tricking people anymore. And so that's part of the reason I think Wisconsin will go blue on the governorship. Tony Evers will get reelected. It also helps that they have an incumbent, and that Tony Evers has been very good and proactive and level-headed, So this is my governor's prediction map. Democrats end up doing pretty good. Obviously, Republicans are still in control, if you were to say who has more governorships. But we definitely gained some. We gained Massachusetts. We gained Maryland. Republicans gained back Kansas probably. But, I think Democrats are doing pretty good overall. Okay. Let's go to the Senate. Things are a little more interesting on the Senate level. Let's start in Florida, because I think the Florida GOP... Now, if you want to advocate for the GOP, if you wanted to help them, the Florida GOP is how you do it. Florida is supposed to be a swing state, and yet the Florida GOP has locked this state down. Marco Rubio will win with a very similar margin to Ron DeSantis. I fully believe that. And what I mean by that is, in Florida, and Democrats need to listen to this. If you want Democrats to win, start acting like this, but for your party positions. In Florida, they appeal to their base by doing things. They've gotten so many horrible bills passed, but that make their base happy. So they keep getting that money and they keep getting that constant support. But when they do advertising for these terrible things, they make it seem like a good thing. The advertising is very on point. The branding, the way they talk about it, the way they present it, the results and statistics they put out about it, is all very curated to make it look good to a broader public. So people who are less involved in politics, people who are less educated, or people who tend to be more moderate or conservative are going to think they're good things because that's how they're presented. And also, despite upholding white supremacy through their politics, they do very good at appealing aesthetically and through their talking points to minorities. I mean, Marco Rubio's done a great job at that, talking about specifically Hispanic issues, not doing anything legislatively to help them, but talking about them gets people to trust him. Ron DeSantis is very interesting because he does similar things while super appealing to white supremacy. He even, in one of his ads, changed the way you pronounce his name. His name is DeSantis, but he said, like, DeSantis, something that sounded more white. I don't remember exactly how he said it. I don't know, it's crazy what they have to do. But the Democrats took that and flipped it, and what they did is they did really progressive things and actually got them passed and done that would benefit people's lives. That would really help their base and grow their base, especially with young people and people less politically involved. And then they message it instead of responding to Republican attacks or attacks from the media. They pinpoint messaged it as, this is why it's good, here are the statistics about why it's good, and this is what we're going to do, and here's why we're going to do it. Be very clear about it. Get a lot of support from the middle, the independents, the moderates. You're going to get a lot of support if you are good at messaging like that. Don't be defensive, be offensive, and be clear. And then did a better job at actually appealing to minorities and the lower class. Because they're not. Obviously, the Democratic Party gets a lot of minority vote, but that's because of the way Republicans legislate. Democrats are still not good at appealing to minorities. They're a very go out to brunch type party, and that's disgusting, and you need a more grassroots approach. And Democrats try that, but it's very clear that they're out of touch. Like, I'll take Marcus Flowers, for example, in Georgia. He's running against Marjorie Taylor Greene. He reminds me a lot of Amy McGrath, who ran against Mitch McConnell in 2020. They're both Army veterans who present themselves as moderates with no clear platform positions other than being against the incumbent. Who wants that? That doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't appeal to someone who works 40, 50, 60 hours a week. Just be straight up with you. Working class does not care that you're a veteran. What that says, if you're a veteran who is not struggling, you're probably rich. And that's just a fact. Because this country does not take care of veterans. We should. Obviously, we should take care of everyone. A lot of veterans go into poverty when they get out of service. They struggle with mental health issues or physical health issues that do not get addressed because they cannot get good health care, proper health care. And a lot of veterans end up homeless. And a lot of veterans commit suicide because they are not taken care of by this country. But the ones that come out on top, which is a small percentage, but the ones that do, are usually very well off. And we know that those politicians are like that. Like Dan Crenshaw, who's a Republican, but still, same deal. So you're already presenting yourself as an elite, which is going to separate yourself from the working class. And then you have no platform positions. Now, the best thing that Marcus Flowers did is one of the first ads I saw from him was him ripping down a Confederate flag. Now, that is something that gives the lower class something to vote for. Because there's a strong stance against actual policy positions. The Confederacy stands for states' rights to enforce white supremacist power structure. And while a lot of people won't use those specific words to describe it, they understand the implications of it, especially somewhere like Georgia, the heart of the South, former capital of the Confederacy. Georgians understand, at least especially Georgians of color, but even a lot of, especially lower class white Georgians understand what these racist dog whistles are. You know, may not be able to articulate them well, may not know exactly how to deal with it, but they know what they are, and they don't like them, and they want to put an end to it. That's why I think we're going to go to the Senate level in Louisiana. Actually, let me swap over here on 538 so I get everything right here. Now, Gary Chambers Jr. in Louisiana, I think, is an amazing candidate, but I think he will not even whittle down Louisiana, and here's why. And I'll show you on here exactly why. Look at all these Democrats running. Gary Chambers is easily going to do the best, but doesn't matter. Louisiana does not have a primary. This goes back to states' rights and how it's used to uphold white supremacy. Each state decides their own system of elections. Primaries are designed so that people can pick a candidate and then put their full support behind the party, right? So Democrats, Republicans, and third parties can have primaries where their base voters can pick out of a slate of candidates which one they want to represent the party, and then in the general, everyone can pick from those. Louisiana is the only state that I'm aware of does not have a primary. So you see all these people? They're all running and they will all be on the ballot. So Democrats, Independents, and other parties will all have to split their vote. Otherwise, Gary Chambers is doing such a good job at articulating the true issues of the working class in Louisiana, whether that's racism, healthcare, poverty, infrastructure, the war on drugs, no matter what it is. He wouldn't win, but I think he could whittle it down to likely and create the infrastructure for future Democratic candidates to run and win in Louisiana. But that's not going to happen because there's no primary. He still might create that infrastructure, but it's just another way that black people are stymied by the white supremacist South, upheld by the federal government's laws. It's not just the South, it's just worse in the South, but it happens everywhere, and it's enforced by the federal government. Okay, Alabama, easy. South Carolina, easy. North Carolina, I think will be very close. Now, a lot of people, maybe not that close. Maybe just like this. Maybe a couple of points. Maybe like 2% for Ted Budd. And that's because Ted Budd's a good candidate. Jerry Beasley is a good candidate. But I just think Ted Budd is too good to lose for the Republicans. Unlike a lot of these other candidates that are running. I'm going to go ahead and put Oklahoma as safe. Arkansas is safe. Now let's get into Georgia, because this is where it gets interesting. Georgia will be extremely close, but I do think Raphael Warnock will win. 2 reasons. 2 very important reasons. Number 1 is Raphael Warnock is the best Democrat Georgia's ever had. Maybe not ever, but in 2020, Raphael Warnock not only did better than Joe Biden, he did better than Jon Ossoff. There were Republicans in the state of Georgia, people who voted for Republicans in the past that voted for Joe Biden because they did not like Trump. But there were more Republicans that voted for Jon Ossoff than Joe Biden. But there were even more Republicans that voted for Raphael Warnock than Jon Ossoff. Raphael Warnock is an amazing candidate, and it's because he's so good at doing the strategy I said that Florida GOP does, but for Democrats. He specifically lays out what he is going to do, specific policy positions. He says how he's going to do it. He says how it will help you. And then he actually does it. That's the main part that a lot of other Democrats don't do, is they don't actually do it. If you follow Raphael Warnock in Congress, he's done these things. He has put in the work. And you can tell that when he speaks on TV or if he speaks in person, no matter what, you can tell. He means it. Fantastic candidate. And the other reason, his opponent, Herschel Walker, is one of the worst candidates they could have picked. Almost any other candidate would have been better. Not any. There are some that are worse, because Herschel Walker does have the celebrity factor. But that's the only thing going for him. Everything else makes him a terrible candidate. He has no good policy positions. No policy positions that appeal to Georgians. Statistically, if you look at polling, not a single policy position I've heard Herschel Walker say is popular in Georgia. He also does not say many policy positions. He mainly talks about cultural issues or playing football. He really doesn't have good points. He's also very controversial, has a lot of scandals. He has genuinely hurt people in his life, whether that's through domestic abuse or through scamming them financially. And he also has serious mental illness problems. And I don't mean to be ableist, you just got to be honest about these things. Because, like, I have mental illness problems myself, but, like, he has CTE, he has DID. I personally think he should be enjoying his retirement, especially since he is a very wealthy person. But instead he's doing this, and I think he's going to lose, just barely, because Georgia is basically a red state. It's a swing state, but there are more registered Republicans than Democrats. But I think, even though I think Brian Kemp will win on the governorship, I think Raphael Warnock will win, because I think this year Republican voters who voted for Joe Biden will go back to voting for Republicans, except for Raphael Warnock. I think there will be a lot of people who vote for Brian Kemp and Raphael Warnock on the same ticket. Because that's what happened in 2020. There was a lot of people who voted for Donald Trump and Raphael Warnock in 2020. So yeah, I think Georgia will go blue, but just barely. So we really got to fight for it, but I think that's what's going to happen. Now, Charles Booker's a really good candidate. I don't know if I feel comfortable saying that he's going to bring down the margins because of the type of state that Kentucky is. But I think he is going to bring down the margins, just not enough to make it not a safe state. I think he's going to outperform other Democrats. He's definitely going to outperform Amy McGrath. But I don't know if I feel comfortable putting it as likely yet. Because I think as we progress, we might see something like that. Excuse me. Okay. Yeah. So, Maryland, Connecticut, Vermont, New York, easy dubs for the Democrats. I think, who is it? It's not Cortez Masto, it's, Hassan? Yeah, Maggie Hassan. That's who it is. I think Maggie Hassan will do very good in New Hampshire. It is a swing state, but I think she's going to do really good. Because like a lot of the New English states, they will vote for Republicans if they're moderate enough, but also they have a lot of Democratic sensibilities of like, we want abortion access, and we want health care, and we want a decent minimum wage, and so they're going to, I think it'll be easy for Maggie Hassan. Obviously, it'll still be a fight. It is a swing state, but I think it'll be a better margin than, say, Georgia or Pennsylvania. I think Pennsylvania's going to come down to the wire, but John Fetterman will outperform someone like Raphael Warnock. I think John Fetterman is an amazing candidate, and John Fetterman is going to help get other candidates elected in Pennsylvania. I think because of how much of a swing state Pennsylvania is, and the type of year it is, it will come down to a very close margin. But John Fetterman is an amazing candidate, and Dr. Oz is a bad candidate. So I think John Fetterman will outperform Raphael Warnock, but they will both still probably be within a percentage point. It's my guess. Now, Ohio is very interesting, because Tim Ryan's a good candidate. J.D. Vance is an okay candidate, right? If Josh Mandel had won the primary in Ohio, I think it could be something like that, right? Josh Mandel would still win, because Republicans have been doing great in Ohio since 2016. I think it will be likely, because Tim Ryan will do well, but not well enough. One, he's not progressive enough to turn out a lot of young voters, and like more progressive voters of color around the, what city is that? Gosh, why can't I remember what city that is? This I'm losing my mind. Cleveland, that's the name of the city. I don't think he's going to turn those people out. And with how gerrymandered the House map is for Ohio, I think there's going to be lower voter turnout anyways. So I think, J.D. Vance will win pretty heavily, but it'll still not be safe. Indiana, though, will be safe, I believe. Iowa will be likely, because Chuck Grassley's so old, and Iowans do like their abortion access, that I do think it'll be like. I also think Missouri will be likely, and that's because of how bad these candidates are. You know, like, these are states that should be safe for the Republican Party in a year like 2022, but they're not because of how bad these candidates are. Freaking, the primary in Missouri is not over yet, but it's probably going to be... What? Eric Schmidt. Am I missing something? 538 says it's going to be Eric Schmidt. I thought it was going to be the other guy. Let me look this up. Missouri Republican primary. Eric Schmidt. I wonder if I'm just misremembering his name. Wow, that's a lot of candidates. Eric Greitens is who I thought was going to win. Well, if Eric Schmidt wins, it's going to be safe. I thought Eric Greitens was going to win. If Eric Greitens wins, it'll be likely. So I'll keep it as safe. So either way, I think the Republican's going to win. It's just about the margin, right? Republican's going to win here. I do think Republican's going to win Kansas pretty heavily. Even though the governorship could go to Democrats. I didn't say it would, but I think it's going to be a very close race. But the Senate, I think it's going to go to Republicans pretty easily. I think Michael Bennett's going to easily be reelected, but there will be a lot of Republican turnout, so it will be a likely margin in Colorado, but he'll still get reelected. I think Wisconsin will be a very close state. Now, a lot of people are saying it won't be. A lot of people are saying it'll be more like North Carolina. I think it'll be close. I think Tony Evers will help that, too. I think there's a lot of good Democratic candidates in Wisconsin that'll get turnout out. I think the overturning of Roe and how conservative the Supreme Court is will get turnout out. I don't think it'll be enough for Democrats to win, but I do think it'll be very close. Illinois, easy dub. I think Utah will be likely, but only because the Democrats didn't run a candidate and instead are supporting the independent. Which doesn't matter. It might as well be safe red because the independent is a conservative. He's running as an independent, but he is a conservative Republican. He's just an anti-Trump Republican. His policies are not more moderate than a Trump Republican. He just doesn't like Trump personally. So it doesn't really matter. It might as well be safe red. But I'm going to leave it as likely. I don't know. Might as well. I think Alaska... You know what? No. Alaska's going to be safe red. Here's why. The two leading candidates are both Republicans. So no matter if it's Lisa Murkowski or something Chewbacca, what's her name? I don't care. She doesn't deserve my respect. Chewbacca or Murkowski, they're both Republicans. One of them's going to win. Therefore, it's safe red. Now, like I said, Mark Kelly, I think, will win by a lot for a swing state like Arizona. And I think Cortez Masto will win, not by a lot. It'll be a very tough race because Adam Laxalt is actually a really good candidate. Unlike most of these GOP candidates, Laxalt's really good. But I think because Cortez Masto is also a good candidate, and the type of year that it is because of the Supreme Court and things like that, Nevada will stay blue. Washington has some kind of upset. I don't know. Some people were saying it was going to go down. Maybe it will. I don't know. These two easy blue. This one's blue. And that's my prediction. 51-49. I do think Democrats will expand their majority, and it's because of how bad the GOP candidates are. See Dr. Oz. See, what's her name? Her name? Is it her? No, Blake Masters. See Blake Masters. See Dr. Oz. See, where's the other ones? Am I crazy? Well, Eric Greitens if he wins, but I don't know if he'll win or not. Either way. In New Hampshire. Donald Bolduc, These are bad candidates. This should be an easy year for Republicans, and instead they've made it hard for themselves. You've got the Supreme Court being fucking ridiculous. You've got Donald Trump announcing he's going to run for president before the midterms. after losing. An incumbent president doesn't lose very often. They have to be very disliked. For all these reasons, I think Democrats will expand their majority. And if they don't expand it, let's say Nevada goes red, right? They still remain in control. So, yeah. Now let's move on to the big boy. How long have I been streaming? Can I even tell? Can I even tell? No, I can't. Can I? Almost an hour. Okay. This is going to be the tough one. The House. We all know that it's going to go to the Republicans. Right? And on 538, it says that it'll be 232 seats. I don't know if it'll be that many, but maybe. I think it's very possible. And let's get into this. I'm not going to talk about each race because it doesn't matter that much. It's just the important ones. So let's start to zoom in. Let's start from the northeast to move our way down and over. Easy dub right there. Maine's first district. Maine's second district has a Democratic incumbent, but they voted for Donald Trump by over 10%. Excuse me, oh my goodness. So I think Jared Golden, the incumbent, unfortunately will lose, but will lose by a very small amount. Means it's possible he'll win. But if I had to make a prediction, I think he's going to lose by a small amount. Now, shoot. This people disagree with me on. New Hampshire, I think because of Maggie Hassan running, because of all the things that are going on controversially, I think Chris Pappas, a lot of people think he's going to lose. I think he's going to barely win. Because the margin and who's in the new district is almost exactly the same. The district was drawn almost exactly the same. The margin is almost exactly the same. I think he's going to barely win. And I think the other guy's going to win. I forgot his name. Easy dub Vermont. Excuse me. All of Massachusetts is deep blue. Literally all of it. Rhode Island will be something like that. Connecticut will be something like that. New York. New York has 3 safe red districts. I think John Katko is going to win again. I think it's going to be like that. Maybe like... Yeah, maybe like that. Doesn't matter, really. I mean, zoom in here. I think it's going to be something like that. And we're going to get this to narrow up. Not we, but, then it's going to be blue all in New York proper. And it's going to be something like that on Staten Island. My other video, my video about redistricting, the episode of my podcast about that, I kept calling this, what did I call it? Coney Island. I kept calling it Coney Island, my dumbass. It's Staten Island. Alright, so here's the interesting ones. I think the third is going to barely go to the Democratic Party because of the type of year, because Joe Biden's unapproved of, because of inflation and all these things. I think the Republicans have a really good shot at winning in District 3. It's an open district. But I'm thinking the Democrats will probably have a good candidate after the primaries are over. Maybe Aisha Mills. And I think they'll squeak by because it is a Biden plus 3 district. The other two are more complicated, though. The other two are more complicated. I believe, I don't know which ones they are. I think they're probably both going to barely go red, though. I mean, it is a bad year for Democrats. I've been saying it's a good year for Democrats. I've been saying it's a bad year for Republicans, especially on the Senate level a lot, because statewide it is. For governor and Senate, any statewide race like that, it's a bad year for Republicans because of basically the Supreme Court. People are sick and tired of Donald Trump being a fascist, the Republican Party being full of fascists, the Supreme Court being full of fascists. People are sick of it and they want their human rights. Is it so much to ask to have some human rights? Right. These smaller elections, though, I think is going to be a very good year for Republicans because of, one, redistricting, favored Republicans pretty heavily, and because inflation is going to cause these local elections to really turn more towards the Republican Party. So, you know, these deep blue areas like cities and stuff are really going to turn out, I think, and get the statewide ones pushed through. And even on a local level, there are going to be people who maybe would usually not vote, would turn out and vote, and their drops, their single votes are going to add on to that statewide total. But when it comes to their individual districts that they live in for the U.S. House, that drop of votes aren't going to make as much of a difference because you're going to get a good Republican turnout and independents voting for Republicans because of dumbass shit like inflation, even though the U.S. government doesn't have much to do with inflation. It's a global issue. Not the point, though. That's just how people vote. I'm just trying to be realistic here. And for being realistic, this is going to go red. Might even be redder than that. I think that's a red district. I'm going to go to the redistricting model. Hold up. It's easier to read like this, just so I remember where each one is. Right. So, yeah, it'll be something like that. And something like this. New Jersey Democrats really did a good job. If they want to win, other than the fact that they drew an incumbent into a red district, which is a dumb move, they did improve their margin in New Jersey. They basically took away all the competitive seats, which I don't like. As someone who's pro-democracy in general, not pro-Democratic Party, but pro-democracy, little d, I don't like that they got rid of competitive districts, but because Republicans have done it in other states, you kind of have to if you want to play hardball, and I definitely think Democrats need to play hardball, because we're dealing with literal fascists here. Philadelphia is going to be blue, of course. I think it's going to be pretty easy to make this red. I think Susan Wild is not going to win, and I think Matt Cartwright might win because of John Fetterman. I think John Fetterman is going to bring the turnout in these smaller, more rural districts. Matt Cartwright's district actually got less Republican than it used to be. So while Susan Wild's got more Republican and I think she'll lose, I think Matt Cartwright might win. I think Democrats will squeak through here. Connor Lamb's district. He's not running again, but I think whoever it is running here is going to win. Just barely, though. And then the rest, of course, is red. Ohio. They really... Man, let me tell you something. The Republicans fucked Ohio. Fucked Ohio hard. And I'm going to talk about these individual districts. I'm reeling over this. So, here's the thing. Is that how it looks? Apparently these are less red. So is this one. Whatever. It's still going to be red in the end. Getting Mary Captor's district, moving it from just the coastline to being this rural area over here, a lot of people think that she's going to win anyways. I don't know if I believe that. Ohio's a very red state, or at least as of the past 6 years it has been. It used to be a swing state, but a lot of people moved out of Ohio, and like a lot of minorities moved out of Ohio, which is fair. It's Trump country. You might get killed, literally. And also, I don't know, it might be something in the water. Like, it's weird. But this redistricting really screwed over Mary Captor. It screwed over Tim Ryan. And then Democrats screwed themselves on this district, the Cincinnati district. I don't remember the number. Steve Chabot is the Republican incumbent. This district was +4 Republican, and now it's like +3 Democrat. So you would think it would flip and Steve Chabot would lose to some Democrat, but Landsman, I think his name is Eric Landsman, the Democrat running, one, he looks like Jeff Bezos, which is a bad start, and two, one of his platform positions is being vehemently pro-Israel. You're gonna lose, bro. Israel is a fucking apartheid state. Israel is a stain on this fucking world. And one of your platform positions is giving Israel more money? We already give them so much of our budget just for them to fucking bomb Palestinians. No, you're gonna lose. A Democrat should easily be able to win in Cincinnati, because Steve Chabot's district used to be, because Cincinnati, I don't know if you see where my mouse is, but it's like right in the middle, that little skinny part. The district used to go around to the west. It used to be all the suburbs of Cincinnati. They redistricted it to put Cincinnati proper in this district. Democrats should easily win, and yet they're going to lose because they have a bad candidate. Played yourself, Democrats. Played yourself. But yeah, in general, the Republicans fucked this. And I hope Mary Kaptur wins. I do, but I don't think she will. Okay. West Virginia. Easy. Okay. Delaware. Easy. Maryland. Red. It's going to be something like this and like that. This district is interesting. I think in the future, the Panhandle District of Maryland, because of how it was redistricted, is going to go red. But I think because of the type of state Maryland is, and because a Trump Republican is running for governor, and because of the attacks on human rights, I think it's going to remain blue. Also, the incumbent's pretty popular. I forgot who it is, but I think it's going to stay blue. But in the future, I think it'll go red. It might even go red in 2024 or 26. But for 2022, I actually do think it'll remain blue, barely. Okay, Virginia. Virginia, I hate how it's redistricted, because just kind of like Connecticut, it's done to where it's kind of fake equal. It's supposed to give representation to the Republican Party, even though they don't. It's supposed to give half representation to the Republican Party, even though they don't win half the popular vote. But whatever. Which district is it? I think it's this district. Yeah, I got that right. Good. Okay. I think Elaine Leary is a really good candidate, but I do think she's going to lose, unfortunately, because of how it's redistricted. Her old district was the coast here with the little Virginia's penis, whatever this is, and then some of the coast up here. They got rid of all the coast up here and gave her more rural inland here, and I think she's going to lose because while she's a Democrat that can appeal to Republican voters, and she did that in her old district, there was a Republican district that she won as a Democrat. These are different voters. Like, instead of keeping her in a Republican district but with the same kind of groups of voters, they gave her a lot of new voters that used to be voting in a different district. And so I don't think she's going to win, unfortunately. I do think, I forgot their name, but the one in the competitive district here I think is going to win. And I think it'll be something like this. Kentucky is easy. One blue district, one likely district, and the rest solid red. Tennessee is a sad, sad situation. The GOP did this state dirty. It had two blue districts, as it should, because Nashville should have been a blue district. Nashville got split 3 different ways, and the incumbent is going to run his ass off and try and get the margin down, but it doesn't matter how good you run, you're going to flip to red, and once you do flip to red in 2024 and beyond, it's going to be solid red. But only because the incumbent is going to run his ass off is it going to maybe narrow down. Tennessee is one of the worst cases of gerrymandering in 2020, I believe. Okay, North Carolina, on the other hand, is actually a really good map. It's a really fair map. I really like the new North Carolina map. It's super fair. Like, it still favors Republicans, but that's because it's a majority Republican state. But it actually represents the amount of Democratic voters there are. Unlike Ohio, which greatly diminishes the power that Democrats should have. Unlike Illinois, which I haven't talked about yet, but it greatly diminishes the power the GOP has. North Carolina, thanks to their superior court, is pretty fair. Sorry, my voice is getting hoarse from talking this much. Yeah, I mean, it'll be something like this, and this one I think will barely go to the GOP. Maybe not. I mean, it is a good year for them. I think it'll be something like that, maybe. Gotta remember which ones are the more competitive ones. It's these two, which I think it'll basically fall in line like that. You know, if Democrats want to win, Wiley Nickel is running as a Democrat here. Don't think he'll win, but if you want to support him, Wiley Nickel. Very interesting name, that's why I remembered it. This also is fucked up. You know, this district was narrowing down, and then they made it solid red. It's whatever. Georgia is fucked up. Oh my gosh. So Georgia had two competitive districts. Georgia had 4 Democratic districts, 2 competitive districts, and 8 Republican districts. The GOP state-run state legislature got rid of all competitive seats. Well, that's not even true. They made what is this rural black district, they made it competitive. Sanford Bishop's district. It represents a large part of the black community in Georgia, but in a very rural area, and they added Thomasville. They took away, I think this is Cordell County. They added, I believe, part of Perry to this to dilute, and they added North Muskogee County to dilute that black vote, which unfortunately Georgia voters are split a lot on racial lines because of our history of racism. They made this one competitive, and then the 2 competitive districts, which were 6 and 7, they made one safe red and one safe blue. And so, unfortunately, instead of them both being competitive, both with Democratic incumbents as of 2020, it's going to be something like this. And I just want to say, I wish I could do this for District 11, because I am friends with the Democratic candidate running there, Antonio Daza. Great candidate. I think he's going to increase turnout a lot, but not enough to make it not safe. Just, unfortunately, that's just how the makeup of the district is. So yeah, that sucks, but it's not as bad as Florida's map. Florida's map is wild. Wild! Red, 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 red. Everywhere. This is like the best map for Republicans that there could be in Florida. Like, I'm almost certain that is how this map turned out. It is like the best. There's no way you could draw a better map, I don't think. For Republicans, that is. Like, it's so red, it's ridiculous. Look at that. Florida should be a swing state. Look at what they did. I'm pretty sure this is illegal, but just hasn't been upheld in court yet. They took this side of St. Petersburg and gave it to what should be Tampa. Because it used to be 2 blue districts, Tampa and St. Petersburg. Now all the Democrats are in one district. It's ridiculous. And then also, Al Lawson, who lives in Tallahassee, I'm pretty sure, or somewhere in here. Okay, so the Voting Rights Act makes it to where you have to have majority-minority districts. In Florida, there's a lot of majority-minority districts down here, but it's majority Hispanic, right? There was a majority black district, and it spread from Tallahassee over to Jacksonville. Because there's a lot of black people that live on the border of Georgia in Florida. You see, they split Jacksonville's here. They split Jacksonville in half, and Al Lawson, who lives in Tallahassee but represented this majority black district, is now in a majority white district and will not win. Probably won't even get it to be like that. Like, it is illegal. I just doubt that our current Supreme Court's going to uphold that. I wouldn't doubt if our current Supreme Court overturned the Voting Rights Act. But, like, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a law expert, but I can tell you that this map is illegal under the Voting Rights Act, and yet probably nothing's going to happen. Also, I'm upset with Alabama. Well, not with Alabama, I'm upset with the Supreme Court of the United States. Because the Supreme Court of Alabama, Superior Court of Alabama, whatever, said, we have such a high black population. We need 2 majority black districts. And they drew maps with that. They drew one with Montgomery and one with Birmingham. Whereas their old map basically looked like this map does, where it has Birmingham and Montgomery in the same district. And Mobile as well. 3 major cities, all in one district. The Superior Court of Alabama said, no, we need 2 majority black districts. Which, yes, because of the race relations in the South, would have meant 2 Democratic districts. And then the Supreme Court of the United States overruled the Superior Court of Alabama. And they have this map. Disgusting. Yeah, a lot of these southern states, you see how, if it wasn't for the Voting Rights Act, they would be all red, because the state legislators are so racist. But it's still very racist and unfair, because under the Voting Rights Act, you only have to do 1 district, and so they'll pack all the black voters into 1 district, one ugly, stretched out district. I mean, you can see Missouri, Alabama, Tennessee, Louisiana. Florida doesn't even have one anymore, but it was ugly. South Carolina, that's who I was looking for. South Carolina, look at that. Look at how ugly this is. Arkansas is all red. Oklahoma's all red. Texas, oh my freaking god. Texas is brutal. Texas is brutal. I'm gonna fill in the Democratic seats first because it's easier that way because there's so few of them. Nope, that's not one. Oh my goodness. These districts are so weird and wormy that it's hard to freaking even hit the right ones. Look at that. I mean, they go from San Antonio to Austin in one district. Look, I can't even believe. Look at that. It's like they go up the road, you know? Disgusting. Alright, let's do the southern ones, alright. So they made a safe Democratic district here. This one is going to be way closer than it should be. Because Jessica Cisneros should have won the primary here, and then it would have been like that. And it's going to whittle down. It may even get down like that. Some people even think Republicans could win. I think Democrats will still win. Henry Cuellar is the only pro-life Democrat in Congress, and that's disgusting. Being pro-life or pro-forced birth is disgusting in general, but the fact that the Democratic Party won't whip their members, which that's a political term. Like, I don't mean literally whip. I'm talking about when you whip somebody in Congress, it means you convince them to do something that they otherwise wouldn't want to do. Like, it makes them fall in line with the party. I cannot believe they will not whip Henry Cuellar. I cannot believe they will not whip Joe Manchin. Joe Manchin would be easy. Press charges against the scandals he's done with his daughter and his company, and remove him from his committee assignments. Or one or the other. It doesn't matter. It'd be easy. Henry Cuellar was investigated by the FBI. Henry Cuellar is a pro-forced birth Democrat. He only barely won his primary, and a lot of that is because of the funneling of money and support that came from the party establishment. Disgusting. And yeah, he's not going to win by as much as he should. Because who would want to vote for that freak? Okay, I'm sorry. This makes me so mad. Michelle Vallejo, who's running as a progressive Democrat in this district, is going to do a very good job. I really like her, and I think she has a future in Texas. This is not the year. Because of inflation and all these different things, I just don't think it's the right year. There's only 4 districts in Houston that are Democrat. This district here is Dan Crenshaw's, just by the way. Pretty sure. Fun fact, I guess, or unfun fact. Dallas-Fort Worth has a couple of Democratic districts. Like that. Yeah, so Texas is horribly gerrymandered. Alaska will be likely. Hawaii will be safe. I think we're going to end up with a situation in New Mexico similar to this. I think the results will end up being the same as the incumbents are, but the margins will be different because it's a dummy mander. If you look at this map, they went from how it should be, Albuquerque having its own district, and then blue and a red district. They went to trying to make them all blue. I just don't think that's going to work. I just think you've made yourself vulnerable in future years, but it doesn't change the dynamic in the state at all. It's still red and 2 blue. Arizona did the same thing Georgia did, where they straight up gerrymandered out a Democratic district and then made another one competitive. Greg Stanton's district is going to be very competitive, but I do think he will win. I think it's going to be like this. Let me look back to make sure I'm getting these margins right. Yeah. Wait. Yeah. Okay. Just want to make sure I got that right. Pretty cut and dry in Arizona. The only real main thing is that Greg Stanton, I think, will win, but just barely. I'm going to get to California last. There's a lot of districts. I've been doing the South here. Let's move up to Indiana. Indiana's pretty simple. All Republican except for Gary and Indianapolis. Michigan's a little interesting. Michigan, I think it's like that. Yeah, I got that right. Of course, the Detroit area is easy, but then it's the rest of it. Not the rest of it, but these 3 are all competitive, and there's going to be very interesting results. Both of these districts technically are Republican districts, but have Democratic incumbents. And what I think will happen is I actually think Daniel Kildee will lose, but I think Elisa Slotkin will actually win by a pretty good amount. Peter Mayer, though, right here in this district, almost everyone has said that he's going to win because his district used to be very rural and these voters up here, and now it's a lot more focused on Grand Rapids, I believe the city is, I actually think Peter Mayer could lose in this political environment. But it's one that's going to be really close, so easily he could win. Let's see. Wisconsin. Yep, just want to make sure I got the competitive one right. It mainly looks like this. There is a Democratic incumbent in this weird looking district here. I think he's going to lose. I think he'll put up a good fight, but not enough to win in a year like this. Wisconsin goes back and forth a lot. And I just think because of the supply chain and inflation, even though that's not Democrats' fault, I think voters will still vote out this guy in favor of some Republican. Okay. But the competitive district in Minnesota, I think the incumbent will win. That's Angie Craig. It'll be barely, but I do think Angie Craig will pull it off and win. Am I getting these margins right? No, I got these mixed up. It's like this. And yeah, okay, I got that one right. Good. Well, actually it says that this one should be likely. Doesn't matter, Democrat will win. That's the point I'm making on that. Okay. And Illinois, I think the gerrymander will work. I think it'll go down from 6 to 3 Republicans. I think the incumbent here will win. And, all that. I don't even care if I get these margins right, because I do think they will all win. All these Chicago districts, and then these two. I just think the gerrymander will work in Illinois. Of course, Missouri looks like that. And then Iowa, I would love a Cindy Axne one, but I honestly cannot say that she will. I think Iowa, funnily enough, looks like this. I think it's very funny. Iowa is like a spiral of getting less red, but all being red. But that's just how it is. Don Bacon's district could be competitive, but because of the way it's redistricted, I don't think it will be. Sharice David's district, I think, will flip. Barely. I think she'll put up a good fight, but will flip. Montana, pretty easy. Montana, pretty easy margin. Idaho, pretty easy margin. Wyoming, easy. Utah, be like this until the Great Salt Lake dries up, and then everyone will have to move out of Utah, and it won't be a state anymore. Let's see. I'm about to frickin' explode. Hold up. Let me BRB real quick. Alright, I'm back. I'm sorry, I went to Costco earlier and drank a whole Pepsi in the food court, because I gotta go get that cheap Costco meal. And in case you haven't heard, Costco's foot-long hot dogs are only $1.50, and drinks are only a couple cents if you get a hot dog with it. Me and my partner got medium drinks, or they only have one size drink, but it's this size drink with free refills and a foot-long hot dog each. That's 2 foot-long hot dogs and 2 drinks for like $3.25. In this economy, that's amazing. All right, so shout out to Costco. I do think the new competitive district this year will go to the GOP, but barely, because of the type of state and type of voters Colorado has. I think it'll just be barely because of the margin. In the future, I think it'll go Democratic pretty easily. Of course, Denver will be blue. All of these will be blue, right? Yes, that is right. Yep. All right, Nevada. I think Nevada will be very much something like this. I think the incumbents will hold strong. Let's see, Washington. It looks like this. You got your safe blue districts. And then this one, Kim Schreier, I think will hold on. Because her district was even before, and it is still even, and I think the incumbent will hold strong, just like I think the incumbent will hold strong here. Maybe by this margin. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to say. The Democratic-led Oregon state legislature did gerrymander this and a little bit to make it more likely for Democrats to win each seat except for this one, so I trust that margin. Now for the big boy, California deserves more than 2 senators but doesn't get it. Let's see if I can remember it without even looking. Something like that. I think. Maybe I'm getting it backwards. This one's red. I know all of these are blue. That's like that. I'm gonna have to double check on. I can do that right now. Double check these margins so I get it right. So I was right. I shouldn't have double guessed myself about these. That's like that. That's like that. That one is like that, and then this one is blue. Okie dokie. Alright, so the incumbents here, I think, unfortunately, will win. Because of the type of year it is and how California is with their Republican incumbents. Maybe Rudy Salas will do pretty good running here and whittle David Vallejo? What's his name? David Valadeo whittle down, but still win. That's my prediction. Young Kim and the other one, I forgot the other Republican's name. I think they will also hold on by small margins. And yeah, that's that for California. Basically, right? Yeah, it's just 2 likely districts here. I think it's these. Maybe it's these. I could just look. Why do I keep not looking? It is not that one. Shouldn't have second guessed myself. Yeah, and so the rest of California just looks like this. The rest of Los Angeles. All this jumble right here. This is the Los Angeles metro area. Los Angeles being the second largest city in the country. First being New York. Los Angeles is the 3rd largest city in the continent. New York being the 2nd. The first being Mexico City. Fun facts for everybody. Alright, I gotta go. I gotta cut this stream short. Thank you for watching if you did, or if you will in the future. I think only one person tuned in live. But once again, support me on Patreon if you want this setup to be better. Because this is a crap setup right now, and boy, am I struggling. America's fallen to fascism. Oh, Lord.